I'd like to do a basic overview today of the Rikon 3061 bandsaw. It's a benchtop model. I upgraded from the Ryobi benchtop, and I was looking for a step up, but did not have the money or truly the space for a full-size model. After doing some research, comparing this to the Wen, to the Grizzly, I felt that this was probably the best benchtop bandsaw on the market. So I gave it a shot. I think at the time, got it for about $500 or a little over from Woodcraft. I'm extremely pleased. I will say up front, this has been an incredible bandsaw for me. The power is a 1/2 horsepower motor, which doesn't sound like a lot and doesn't sound like a huge step up from the 1/3 power Ryobi, but it is immediately noticeable. Some other things I really like just from the basic outer view. This is steel. It's very heavy, probably 140, 130 pounds for a benchtop tool. This is cast iron, this is aluminum. We've got more aluminum, some plastic, but for the most part, we've got steel throughout the entire thing. This rigidity decreases the vibration an incredible amount compared to your benchtop plastic bandsaws. I'd like to go over a few features now with the Rikon that I think are really nice touches. The first I'd like to go over is the fence system. Now, this aligns basically like a T-fence on a table saw. It's got an up mode. It also uses essentially T-slots to connect it. And you can flip this down so that you only have the small edge if you're doing thin rips. It's got quite a bit of range. You can go to either side if you want. It has a measurement system on here, though I do not bother to use that at all. It's probably somewhat accurate, but I wouldn't trust that. What I will say is with this fence, the way it comes, it's very tight. It feels like you're gonna break it when you first get it. This is a thick plastic, but a plastic nonetheless. There are 2 indents in here on this side. Sand these down a little bit at a time until you get a feel that is not crushing as you go in. You will also want to back these out a little bit and then tighten them a little bit as you go. That was the only way to get this so that it was a firm fix. It's not going anywhere, but that it didn't require cranking down on it, which possibly could have broken it. The next feature I really like are these bearings. These are adjustable and can be done essentially with a single finger if you wish. They're spring-loaded and they have their own tension to them so that you can back them off slowly. Just basic twist knobs. They are incredibly nice when you are trying to fine-tune it because you're not requiring an Allen wrench to click it at a time. You can just back in a little bit, back off, tighten, back off, tighten. One of the next features I really like about this, these open and closed twist knobs and this little spring here. It prevents this from closing back on you if your floor is not perfectly level. I'm a big fan of that during blade changes. The next feature I like is that due to this being steel, you can put magnetic attachments on it. These are just magnetic lights from Amazon. Incredibly nice to have. And you need that extra illumination down there. I will next go over the tensioning system and we'll go through how that works and why it's excellent. The tensioning system on this bandsaw is a large spring here with this very nice micro adjustable lever. On the back, we have a quick release mechanism for when you're not using it. This right here can just be opened. You're not using it, it takes the tension off. You see here the blade tightens and loosens. Preserves the life of bandsaw blades significantly. It's actually quite amazing how much longer they last if you detension them. To do the tensioning, you're given this nice little window to look through while you tension it. I generally wear a headlamp while I'm looking in there. I think it's a great way to be able to have this shut and stay safe while also being able to see your tracking as you tension. The tensioning system works here with this lock and unlock knob. Moving this knob to the right will bring the bandsaw blade back this way. Turning it to the left will push it forward. As you have the machine on, you can then look through this window and slowly adjust this and watch the blade go back and forth. I find that's incredibly helpful. I know there are multiple theories on bandsaw blade positioning on the wheel. Personally, I prefer to ride it somewhere around the crown and let it almost find its natural position. This does a great job of allowing you to see that. So we have this tensioning lever. When this is tightened, you get the micro tension adjust. Tracking can be done with this knob right here. While we're back here, I want to look at some extra features. We've got tool storage. Incredibly nice to be able to keep the Allen wrenches you need, 4 of them that come with the bandsaw, as well as this wrench, all on here. In terms of other storage features, we also have this very nice fence holding system. The fence, you open it up and it just slides on and off. And if you have it tensioned nicely, it's not going anywhere. It's a great way to keep this safe, keep it out of the way, but also have it handy when you need it. The Rikon comes with your normal basic safety features, a removable on and off key if you have children. If you just want to make sure while you're working on it you never turn it on, take this out and it can't be turned on. The paddle switch itself has a good feel to it, a nice click. It's easy to reach with one hand. I find that very nice if you're doing a cut and maybe you are at a turn that's a little too tight. Hold the workpiece, turn it off, pull it out, you're good. I'm going to walk you through now how we change the blade on the Rikon 3061. You remove this fence rail with 2 knobs here and here. This right here pulls the 2 sides of the cast iron table together. You just undo this. There is a small washer in here, so make sure not to lose that. We pop out the insert. You can get replaceable inserts from Rikon. As you can see, they get a little torn up over time, depending upon the blade tensioning, so you can get replacements for that. We're going to open this up, and we're going to go around to the back. We're going to make sure everything's unplugged, so we're not plugged in. We're going to detension the lever. We're going to pull all the bearings out, back and forward, on top and underneath. The bearing system is great. However, I do notice that on the bottom bearings, they can get a little clogged with dust, and I've had to replace them a few times with bearings just off of Amazon. It's incredibly easy. I'll show you a little later how to take those on and off. So we've got the bandsaw detention. The power's off. If you want, you can also remove this. I like to back this off just a little bit, not too much. Then we're going to come in here and we're going to be pulling the blade up. One more thing, I like to have this further down instead of up. I find that when this is a longer straight line, it's much easier. We're going to pull it in a straight line and we're going to slide it out there. We're going to slide it out there. So we've got free spinning wheel here, belt and pulley system. This does have 2 pulley settings. I've never used the other one. I just use the one that's the default. So now that we have our bandsaw blade off, we'll go through putting it back on. Again, relatively simple. If this was cranked back up, you would untighten this a little bit. We've got the tension lever open. We're going to then take our bandsaw blade, and I like to start by going through this hole, working my way in there. I like to go up and on top first, pull it down. We're going to make sure we're in, and that's it. You've now got the initial on. We're going to tighten the lever in the back, give this a few twists, and then I like to go by hand just to get this kind of adjusting right. Now we've got all our bearings backed off, so we don't have anything rubbing. These are all unlocked and backed off. This also moves as well with the knob in the back here, so you can back that off if you need to. I'm just going to go by finger. We're going to look through this hole. So now we are able to look through this hole to see the bandsaw tracking. We're going to use the knob in the back that I showed you earlier. We can unlock it and we can turn it to the right to go backwards or to the left to move the blade forward. You can see it moving slowly as I twist with my hand. What I will say is that when you tighten the knob back down, it will move forward some. So you want to get it in the back by a hair from what you eventually want, then tighten the knob down. I like to use a mixture of both methods of tensioning the blade. I like to start out here by doing the finger push. If you can relatively easily push it, but not much more than 1/8 of an inch, it's pretty much in a good place to start. You don't want your knuckle to turn white. That's something I've heard before that I agree with. We'll give it a few clicks around, press it again. That's pretty good. But the next one we're going to do is the flutter test. Now that we've done our general finger pointing adjustment there, deflect about 1/8 to a little under 1/4 inch, we're going to put it in lock mode. We're going to turn the bandsaw on, and we're going to be paying attention to this blade. What I like to do is I like to detension, so twisting the knob counterclockwise on top until we see a little flutter. There's the introduction of flutter. You can hear the sound go down. Now we're going to tension it up until we see it stops fluttering. Another test I like to use is to test table vibration. I like to take a nickel. If I can balance a nickel on there without moving, I'm pretty much in the prime spot. We've got no nickel movement, no flutter. It helps to have a light on that, either from behind or from the front, to see the flutter. I want to talk a little bit about the bearing system here closer in. So the way these work, they essentially tighten left to right to come on and off. There is a spring inside of there. This little set screw holder goes in there. And you can see where then the bearing knob adjusts. There is this inserted knob. There is a washer on that side. The bearing goes in, and a washer on this side. You press it in there and you twist that on to get it close. You want to go in until you can lock it and then back it off a bit. So now that we have it locked, we're not getting any movement. I like to back it off a bit, pull it out, and then we're going to pay attention to this second knob back here. This tightens and loosens this entire mechanism. What we want to do here is we want to get it such that the bearings are only touching behind the teeth. We don't want the bearings as the blade's running to be touching the teeth. We want them behind it. So we're going to move this up slightly until we see just a little bit behind the tooth. You can test by putting that in and out. We're good there. You've got a third knob of the bearings back here. This is your rear bearing. The spring for this is in the back with your finger here while you're tightening it from the left. So we're going to push that. We can see the back bearing moving there. You can see the blade right here. We're going to push that up until we just kiss it. And then we're going to back off a slight bit. Kissing it, backing off, about 1/16 of an inch or less. One way I like to test is whether or not when you push it in, it hurts. If it hurts enough while you're trying to push it in, you've probably got it too far away. You should not be able to feel any pain from the tooth. We're going to move in these bearings so that they are also about 1/16 of an inch away. This will all get double checked when we turn the bandsaw on. You should be able to press it and have a little room there. Do the same thing with this one on the right. Got a little room left, right. You will do the same process down below. So now that we want to test to make sure our bearings are correct, we're going to put the power switch back in. And we're going to be listening if we hear any rattling of hitting back and forth. Now there's no rattling back and forth right now. If there is, you generally need to back the bearings off one at a time to figure out which one is hitting it. Just do them one at a time and you should be able to find it relatively quickly. We're going to reassemble the entire mechanism now. I like to start out by just putting this in here. We then are going to take Allen wrench, this bolt, and this wing nut. We're going to put this washer in first. We're going to go down. We're going to twist this on. Once it gets pretty tight, I like to crank on that relatively well. So we're going to slide this back on. We're going to use the 2 nuts below to tighten this. And you are now ready to go. We're now going to take a look at the relatively basic but fairly effective dust extraction system. You've got a 2.5-inch port here. I use a basic rigid shop vac and it hooks up perfectly fine. Just goes internally, just like that, and you're done. I'd say it collects about 80% of the dust as long as you start it ahead of time and stop it after. If you're using a very thin insert, you'll get table dust. But other than that, I'm very impressed with the dust collection on this. It has a very nice seal for airflow internally. One thing I really enjoy about this saw is that it has a full 5 inches of resaw capacity. There's a knob on the back. You unloosen it, this goes up and down, and you can get a full 5 inches under there. It's tight, but I've been able to resaw walnut, cherry, purple heart, zircote, basically every kind of wood you can imagine. Maple. I've used it to resaw some logs into maple boards from a neighbor's tree that fell down. I've resawn a lot of book matching lids. There's a walnut one. There's a cherry one. And you can also resaw, softwood too, no problem. You just put the fence where you want it. Lower this to only a bit above your workpiece. You would normally put the dust extraction on at this point, and you're just going to go through. Hold it tight to the fence. And you would continue through with the cut. I only have a 1/4-inch blade on here right now, so I'm not going to fully resaw this. I have been able to fit up to a 1/2 inch on here decently well. 3/8 fine. I've gone down to 3/16 of an inch. I have no need for an 1/8 of an inch blade, so I haven't tried that yet. I'm very impressed with the cut quality in general. The lower amounts of vibration is incredibly helpful. The table with the Rikon can tilt a full 45 degrees this way. I just want to go through shortly how to tilt this table and how to level it out. Leveling mechanism as well as the tilting mechanism for the Rikon is on the back here. There's a tightening knob, and you'll notice all of this as you put it together. You've got a rough guide here, however an angle gauge is likely going to help you more. There's a stop. This is a table stop to help you return to 90 degrees when you're done. You loosen this nut on the bottom here, then wind this bolt down with the little wrench provided here. When you get it right, you tighten the knob back up, and that will hold you as a stop. All in all, I'm incredibly impressed with this Rikon 3061, the deluxe version of their 10-inch. Based on what I saw when I was in Woodcraft, I do not see a real reason to go with the model below. The price gap is not enough, in my opinion, to make it worth losing some of the features and just the overall quality of this. You can decide for yourself, of course, but I'm extremely pleased I went with this. And, little things, turning knobs, bearing adjustments, bearings on the bottom and top. The fence system is very nice. You can adjust the fence system through small knob mechanisms up and down to get it parallel, as well as getting it to 90 degrees. The dust collection is solid. Everything is just well built. Cast iron, steel, thick aluminum, magnetic steel, big help for accessories. I would absolutely recommend this to anyone looking for a benchtop bandsaw. One note I will add, however, is that it's pretty heavy. This isn't something like a little Ryobi that you could store on the bottom of a shelf and just easily pick up and bring out whenever you want. That's why I've mounted it to this cart. So overall, I absolutely recommend it, and I think you will greatly enjoy it if you're upgrading from the Ryobi or the Wen or any of the other 10-inch bandsaws.